Get ready to have everything you thought you knew about government debt turned completely upside down. For years, official institutions have been feeding us this script, right? They tell us that heavily indebted European nations just need to grit their teeth, slash their spending, and basically just save their way back to prosperity. Well, spoiler alert, it is a complete and utter fantasy. In our explainer today, we're tearing apart a massive research paper that absolutely destroys this official illusion.
So the official remedy sounds pretty straightforward on paper. The IMF actually expects countries like Italy to maintain a 6.6% budget surplus every single year for a straight decade, and Greece, 7.2%. Think about what that actually means for a second. That means the government has to ruthlessly extract a massive chunk of the national economy purely to pay off old debt every single year for 10 years. Sounds like a solid, responsible plan, right?
But then reality hits, and it hits hard. If we look back at modern economic history, guess how many times a country has actually maintained a 5% surplus for a full decade? Exactly 3 times. 3. Turning an entire nation into a ruthless debt-paying machine for 10 years, it practically doesn't exist in human history.
Section 1, the brutal truth. Because, the data really doesn't lie. The economists behind this study, Eichengreen and Panizza, they didn't just guess here. They built a massive historical data set to completely crush this blind optimism. We're talking 54 countries, 40 years of hard financial history, 113 complete 10-year economic periods analyzed. This isn't just a survey, it's the ultimate autopsy of human economic behavior. And against this absolute mountain of data, those optimistic IMF forecasts are just instantly destroyed.
The math here is genuinely terrifying. Out of 113 historical attempts to pull this off, 110 of them failed. Only 3 succeeded. Yet, the IMF expects struggling European nations to pull off this historically impossible task today like it's just a casual walk in the park. The pure probability says this is a total dead end.
Section 2, a rare perfect storm. So who can actually pull off saving this kind of money?
To execute even a minor, long-term surplus, you basically need to hold 3 incredibly rare trump cards. 1. Your economy has to be absolutely booming. 2. Your everyday citizens are aggressively saving their own cash. And 3. Your government has absolute political control with basically zero opposition. Folks, that isn't normal policymaking. That is a rare perfect storm. And let's be real, how many of those cards does Europe hold right now? 0. Zilch.
Section 3, the biggest twist. And this is where we ask, who actually saves better?
Okay, hold on to your hats because here is the ultimate plot twist that completely shatters our standard political stereotypes. We automatically assume right-wing conservatives, the ones who always preach about cutting costs, are the best at running surpluses, right? Well, the data completely disagrees. History impartially proves that left-wing governments are significantly more likely to execute large, persistent fiscal surpluses. I know, it sounds crazy, but why?
The secret actually lies in the political system itself. Advanced economies that use proportional representation succeed because, let's face it, cutting debt is brutal. It angers absolutely everyone. But this specific electoral system forces multiple parties to form massive coalitions. They essentially have to hold hands and spread the financial agony across every single class of society. Think about it. If only one group takes the hit, they riot. But if everyone suffers together, the policy actually survives.
Section 4, the only 3 miracles, and more importantly, why they simply won't scale.
So who are the 3 historical exceptions? The ones who actually hit that magic 10-year mark? It's Belgium, Norway, and Singapore. At first glance, they look like these shining models of fiscal discipline. But once you peel back the layers, you realize they aren't replicable strategies at all. They are completely unrepeatable flukes. Let's take Belgium in the late 90s. Their massive surplus wasn't some sudden embrace of sustainable discipline, it was a desperate sprint. They were absolutely terrified of missing the cut for the new Eurozone. They effectively starved themselves just to pass the incredibly strict Maastricht Treaty Fiscal. And guess what? The second they got in, that discipline just collapsed.
Then there's Norway. And honestly, their so-called fiscal discipline is almost a joke to struggling nations. Why? Because they literally hit the geographic jackpot with peak North Sea oil production. They didn't magically budget better, they just funneled a tidal wave of temporary oil cash into a sovereign wealth fund. That isn't austerity, guys. That's just waking up with a gold mine in your backyard. And finally, Singapore.
A tiny city-state, no natural resources, completely surrounded by much larger powers. Their surplus isn't really an economic policy, it's a paranoid survival mechanism. They hoard cash as a geopolitical defense shield. You just cannot tell a massive, complex European nation to simply copy the survival instincts of a fortress city. It doesn't work that way.
Section 5. Fatal Flaws. The Ultimate Verdict.
Now, here is the most terrifying academic gotcha of the entire study. The authors openly admit a fatal flaw in the data. Yes, they found the conditions that correlate with saving money, like high growth and private savings, but it is strictly correlation, not causation. What does that actually mean for us? It means you cannot just magically command a struggling economy to instantly create these good conditions. If the economic environment is already weak, forcing a country into deep austerity won't magically save it. It will literally suffocate the economy to death.
So let's place the official dream right next to cold, hard reality. The grand plan for struggling European nations to just cheerfully save their way out of massive debt? It's a castle built on sand. Without booming economic growth, massive private savings, and total political unity, squeezing the population dry is mathematically impossible. History's final, brutal verdict on the European austerity plan is clear. It is a dead end.
Which leaves us staring down one very chilling question. If history absolutely proves that politely saving money to pay off the debt is an impossible myth, how does the European debt volcano actually erupt? When this massive illusion finally shatters, does it end in the absolute chaos of sovereign default? Or will governments silently wipe away the debt by unleashing massive inflation on everyday citizens? Who is actually going to pay the bill? Think about that for a while. We'll catch you next time.